basically imagine you've got a flashlight of awareness in your hand at all times. And most of the time, 99% of people are more comfortable having their flashlight of awareness pointed outwards at the world.
You're listening to the Laughing Couple podcast with your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy. Join them weekly as they discuss topics such as relationships, kids, sex, parenting, all unfiltered and all with a healthy dose of laughter. Please welcome your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy.
Hello.
Got it.
Did you?
I got it.
You got it?
We got it.
All right. Well, we're super excited to have this little chat with Figs O'Sullivan. Figs, how you doing?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
We're catching you all the way from the islands. That's correct?
That's right. Yeah, I live in Hawaii.
I'm literally so jealous. Like, I can't. We had snow like 5 days ago, and it's gonna be 25. It's wild. I won't get mad at you personally,
special.
but
We are jealous. COVID has ripped us and stolen Hawaii from us twice now. So one day, very soon, you will probably
See us
more
at
than
your
likely
doorstep.
see us at your doorstep.
Well,
Yes.
that would be lovely to meet you in person.
Yes.
That would be
Figs,
great.
can you, before we get into a lot, because I'm excited for this because there's a specific topic that I'd like to talk about that we haven't spoken about yet. But before we do that, can you give just like an elevator pitch, like who you are, what you do, what can you bring? Because we always find when our guests edify themselves, they do it the best because you know what you're good at. So we
Our
do
guests,
have that.
our guests are gonna fall in love with you, Figs, but they just need to know why.
Great. Yeah. So, like, really, what it boils down to, I'm a couples therapist.
Yeah.
Right? Psychotherapist, couples therapist. And I spend all my days the way I put it, I run into 20 burning buildings a week. Right. And then when I get inside the building that's on fire, right, like a couple's relationship, both of them are still throwing gasoline around the room and they don't want to leave, right? They want to keep fighting. But so I help people love each other. And then I train other therapists how to help people love each other and just try to change the world for better, one couple at a time.
One fire
That's
at a
it.
time. I like
Exactly.
that. I feel like it reminds me of there's a meme like right now. Well, it's not new, but it's like someone sitting at a table and like there's fire everywhere and they're like, everything's fine. I feel like that's what you're doing and there's fire everywhere, but you're like, it's all good. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, we hypothesize, Figs, that life happens inside a household. Family dynamics, everything. So by helping a couple, you're helping a family. By helping a family, you're helping the extended family. So it's
Absolutely.
that ripple effect. We've always said, like, just take care of what happens inside this house, and then everything else around us will kind of figure itself out. So
Absolutely. I love that. And, I take it even a step further than that. When I'm training therapists and I'm trying to get them to really understand the significance of what we're doing when we're helping a primary couple, be the parents or they're, married or not married, that basically you have 7 generations in the past cheering from the stands, like, please end this emotional trauma that we've been recreating over and over again, generation after generation. And then you've got 7 generations into the future, like cheering in the stands too. Please do it for us.
Where does
right?
the cycle
So the work
break?
that so the work that a couple does today to heal and to be able to, what I call like achieve a missing experience, to actually heal love and emotional bonding wounds, they do for generations in the
like
past
that.
and to come.
Sweet. Well, Figs, you are an expert in this category. And we know that, and we're about to dive into all of the tools that you have at your disposal to help the couples that are listening to this podcast. But before we begin that, it's important for everyone to know that even as an expert in this industry, your partner does still annoy you from time to time. So we're going to do a segment called the I Love You and You're Annoying. We know you're happily married. And how can you not be when you're in Hawaii?
Seriously.
But what is it about your partner that is uber annoying?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a great question. Firstly, I just love the premise. Like that's the way I'm an expert at being a non-expert, right? That the only way you can really be successful in a relationship is that you're a vulnerable participant. And to be a vulnerable participant is not only feeling your primary emotions, your vulnerable emotions, but knowing that you have a reactive side, a judgmental side. And I could be judgmental from morning to night, and I am with my wife often, right? So I'd say one of the things that drives me crazy, that I'm most judgmental about my wife, is she's unbelievably energetic. Like, she's unendingly energetic. I need at least a day a week that I barely get up, right? I just crawl around the house, right? Like, I barely get out of bed. Like, I just want to eat really bad food. She actually hides the kids' food from me, all the snacks and stuff, right? And but the more unenergetic I am, the more stuff she wants me to do.
Of course.
And so that just drives me bananas. I'm always begging her, please just sit down. Let's do nothing just for an hour.
Your wife sounds like my 4-year-old son.
Yeah, I want to do all the things.
I have a 4-year-old too, by the way. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Relentless.
You know what?
You love them, but my God, that's so
busy.
annoying.
My mom was always like that growing up. Like, she cannot sit still. So she always has to be busy. She always has to be doing something. And I have some of that generational chaos, I find, because if I'm not doing something, I honestly equate it with what did I accomplish today? So I have a really hard time sitting down and I project that on you too. Like, if you just want to sit on the couch, I'm like, I guess I'll just do everything. And the whole day, I get it.
So it's annoying. No, you're absolutely right. It is annoying.
But it is annoying.
Your question.
It's annoying, but you touch on a really good point. Anytime you're annoyed by someone else, right? This is what people always do. If it's okay, I'll go into the quote unquote expert stuff. If you're ever annoyed by someone else, or you have a negative judgment of someone else, that means there's something you're not getting in this moment that's difficult for you, right? And then the real job of self-development, if you wanted to take it on, it'll just make being in a relationship easier for you, is to stop looking outwards and describing the other person and work out what's it to me. And to your point, right? As a kid, I'm the son of an alcoholic father and a heartbroken mother. And my mother, she worked her friggin' ass off, right? And so she was busy all the time. So as a little kid, I was often sitting there going, Mom, would you please sit with me? Right? But she's busy surviving. So I recognize and it's familiar to me, that part of my wife, that she's so energetic and she just gets stuff done. On the one hand, it's a good thing, right? It calms me. But on the other hand, it can touch an actual quite vulnerable place inside that I feel she won't just be with me right now. And we could just get all parasympathetic, nervous, that we could just chill. Right.
You got to have that balance.
So it's both, right? So anytime you're in judgment of someone else, there's probably something vulnerable or threatening happening for you inside.
That really makes me think of, Ryan and I had talked about this a little bit ago, but there's a saying somewhere along, it's not going to be verbatim, but essentially if you find yourself, and we do this a lot now, if we find ourselves judging someone, whether that's social media or just in your space, whatever, if we find ourselves basically talking shit and judging, it's probably because we don't feel fulfilled or we're not creating. So we're we haven't done something in our space to feel fulfilled in that creation, that we're over here projecting our judgment because we're not creating. And I just think it's so easy to look over here and it's so much harder to look at your face, look in the mirror. Right?
Exactly.
But it's hard to do.
What I thought was
really hard to do.
What I thought was really cool what you just did there, Figs, because I'm listening to this whole thing and thinking, okay, you're annoyed over here, but what you did is you did the work to figure out that the actual emotion of your annoyance comes from you being a kid, and busy means that attention is not being paid to you. That's what's actually the annoying part. So that's cool. I've never, I don't really look at my annoying that way as what it actually means to me. I just feel like it's annoying.
Where's the deep root?
But I don't really do the looking for annoyance.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
well,
cool.
Here's a little tool that I use. Just a little analogy, metaphor. I always get confused which is which.
Yeah, me
but
too.
basically imagine you've got a flashlight of awareness in your hand at all times. And most of the time, 99% of people are more comfortable having their flashlight of awareness pointed outwards at the world. Look at that person over there. Why did she wear a skirt that's short, right? Oh, look at him in his fancy car, right? We just are judging other people all the time, right?
Yeah.
There's all the time. And especially our spouse, partner, because it's like they photobomb the world. They take up 50 to 60% of the world for us, right? So we're constantly in description of what's outside of us. And your job, again, if you wanted to take it as someone that wants to grow and be a better partner, parent, coworker, boss, whatever it is to grab that flashlight of awareness with both hands and force it off facing the world and face it back towards yourself and ask this simple question. What is it that's actually really happening for me right now? Stop describing the world and start to be able to notice your own internal experience. And that's what you should share with another. What is it that's actually happening for me?
That's good. It really focuses around, your whole thing is really derived around empathy. Can you kind of like speak about what that is to you and how it relates into like relationships? Specifically, you have like emotionally focused therapy, which we'll get into in a little bit, but empathy is huge for you. So I'd love to.
Yeah, empathy is huge, right? Empathy is, let's say if you're on it, let's say your relationship is a journey and there's many journeys. There's the current fight journey. There's the day journey. There's the week. There's the month. There's the whole lifetime together. Empathy is a kind of station that you have to get to and live in, inhabit over and over and over again, daily, weekly, over the course of your lifetime. And what that means for me is you have to get to a place that you go from two separate sufferings to one shared suffering. And this is really weird, right? The reason why, I think I'm going to have a job for a long time, even with AI and, what have you, is no one intuitively goes when we're having a hard time in our relationship. You know what we got to do? We have to go from us both separately suffering to suffering together. Like that doesn't make any intuitive sense that's going to help, right? And so, because everybody's always trying to make things better. How do we get out of this disconnection? How do we get out of this fight? And of course, both people have different ideas about how to do that. And so what I actually try and help people do is not get out of a fight, but feel, look how horrible this is. Your wife's disappointed in you. I'll just use this as an example off the top of my head, right?
Sounds
Your
familiar, though.
Well, exactly, right. Yeah, just off the top of my head. Out of nowhere.
I'm not pulling this off from the fight I had earlier today.
Yeah, exactly. No, this isn't me. Yeah, so my wife's disappointed in me again. I've just let her down. I feel terrible about myself. So I'm in, and then I'm looking at her going, she's really too much. She's always like complaining, whatever my judgment, like describing her. So I'm actually in huge suffering. And then of course she's in suffering. She's like, oh my God, like I don't matter to him. Like why won't he show up? And so she's really hurt. And she's doing her judgy, critical thing. But we're both in two separate worlds of suffering.
Right.
My job is to bring those two sufferings together and join them so that the couple experiences one shared consciousness shifting. Look how we are both hurting when we are disconnected from each other. That is the hardest place to get to. And the whole world changes if a couple can get to that place. It's not just me suffering. It's not just you suffering. It's not just you being bad. It's not just me being bad. We are stuck in a cycle together where, because we're so important to each other, being disconnected is so horrible for both of us. Wow. Now that's empathy.
It's like
when
getting
I mean
a stamp
it, that's
card.
what empathy is.
You got one, I got one stamp card. We're together, and now we get something for free. In
Best friend necklaces. And
Nice.
you know, I'll take this. I'll take this hypothetical. And I'll drive it home for you because I love what you just created here. Brittany and I, when we first started when we first started to live together, I moved in as me and she moved in as her, and we annoyed the hell out of each other. And I'm not offering this up as advice or suggesting any couple who is not getting along does this. But when Brittany got pregnant, we had for the first time in our lives something that bonded us together outside of our emotions. And we had a decision to make. Do I want to continue being me and you continue being you, or do we want to create a family together? And it was that moment, it was a bad day for us, but it was that moment where our whole current life started. It was that commitment. It was our commitment to stop hating each other and start creating together, inside this worry and this fear and all these considerations that we had internally, personally. And let's create this together. And it shifted everything for us.
I love that. And that's where, like, we want to break it down to what happened on the most, like, fundamental first principles level is you both shifted from I consciousness, this is what's going on for me, what is it I'm going to do, to you had a shared experience of shared we consciousness, what do we do together? And that's brilliant in a situation like that where, like, we're pregnant, what are we going to do? Right. That's that's a huge shift, right? Where you go from the two separate I's to the one we. And it's great that you know that. And then obviously the very hardest place to do that is when we're in a fight where we're both hurting and we both think it's the other person is doing something to hurt us. Shifting, and not only is it very hard, it's temporarily for all of us impossible because of the way we're built physiologically, because of how important attachment, the need to be emotionally bonded is. All of us are going to be temporarily impossible to jump from seeing this as an I thing, like look at the way I'm hurting and what you're doing to me, to seeing the entire system. Oh my God, look what's happening between both of us. And it's that shift from the I to the we that calms our limbic system, tells our nervous system we're no longer under an existential threat, right? We're actually just in a fight with someone that loves us and they're hurting too. And yeah, like that's brilliant, right?
Here's my question for you. So how do you get people, because oftentimes, and we just had this conversation too, how do you get people to both meet there? Oftentimes it's one person who maybe realizes that it's like, okay, it's me, they're taking responsibility for what they've done, but their partner's also hurting. How do you get both parties to meet at that empathy level?
Yeah. And where is there? Like, what is there? Like, is it like 100% committed? Is it 50-50? Is it like you got to come closer to me, I got to come closer to, like, how does that, like, what is there? What is that destination?
Absolutely. Great question, right? So here's one of the things that is often as well not understood. And again, it may not make sense. It may not make intuitive sense. What we always have to solve for is the present moment. People always want to solve for, I don't know where we're going to live. I want to go back to my family in Michigan. Well, I want to stay living on the islands, right? Like whatever it is, right? And
this is a legit conversation you've had with your wife, I'm guessing.
Well, I'm from Ireland, right? I made up Michigan. I don't even know where that. It's amazing where stuff like I think we're just about to hire someone that is also a licensed therapist in Michigan, right? But, where Michigan came from, I think that's it. But anyway, so look, so the couple have an issue, right? Where will we live? And that's one problem. But the bigger problem is look at what the emotional system is that's happening between the two of you when you discuss the possibility of moving to Michigan. Now, most people don't notice that what we should really solve for is look what's happening between us right now. Right now in this pattern of communication that's happening between us, where we're both hurting and we're both hurting each other. So always the key is let's try and address and solve this present moment. And if we do that where you both feel empathy for each other, and then we return to, so where do we live? Solving that, what you thought was the biggest problem, is dramatically easier.
Right.
So and then in terms of how do we do it, Look, there's a lot of repetition. If you think about it, typically with a couple, right? Like one member of the couple has one story, what's going on. The other member of the couple has their story, what's going on. They're both right, actually, because it's their truth of their experience. And then I come in where I can see the bird's eye view of the entire system. And I share with them this third perspective, which is the systemic perspective. And I am going to reflect that systemic perspective where both of them make sense. You're both right. You're both hurting, and you both end up hurting each other. Not because either of you are bad, because that's just how important your love is to you. I will reflect that to them in creative ways over and over and over and over again. And no offense, I'm a former rugby player. I will do it till I win. Right? Because I know in my perspective that, look, hey, come here, you're just fighting because you love each other. And it totally makes sense. You're both hurting. And it makes sense that you react the way you do when your feelings are hurt. If that becomes their dominant narrative of what's going on, we're going to have those generations in the stand. Yes. Right. Because that's the remedy, right? That is the remedy to all of their suffering, where they can calm down and see how much they love each other. And then they're going to be hugging each other and be snot and tears and
all of
rubbing
stuff.
each other's noses.
I feel like it's also like giving like your third truth, or your vision of the bird's eye view almost gives them like, you almost validate both of their feelings, so they're in that like validity together, right? So then they feel like, okay, you know what, you're hurting, I'm hurting.
Yeah, that was my question. Is we talk a lot about validating emotions and validating where people are at. I don't know this because this isn't my forte. This is your forte. But using the word empathy is grounded in validation.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to accept. I'm sorry.
No.
Like, so here's like, in my opinion, the steps to like giving empathy technically, but you can't like, it's not a technical thing, but it's not bad to learn it technically and then practice and practice and practice. That you want to be able to make sure the person feels like you really heard them, right? So this is one-way empathy, let's just say, right? One person's hurting and the other person's actually able to be there for the other person's hurt feeling and listen. But please remember what I said earlier. The key first thing we could have to be able to do is get you both to a place of joint empathy. Yeah. And if we do that well, then we can do one-way empathy, right? So really important point. But one-way empathy, just for simplicity, if someone is hurting, you got to be able to reflect back to them that, look, I really heard you. And then check, am I getting it? Right? If someone says my knee is caught and it's really sore, and you say, do you need a bandage? Right? Like, it's not a given that you heard them, right? It's like, oh my God, your knee is hurt, right? Then you want to be able to accept their experience.
Right.
How many times has someone in your family said, look, I'm really hungry, and you say, hey, are you sure you don't need a glass of water?
Yeah.
It sounds like a very small thing, but you're inherently not accepting their experience. They just told you they're hungry, for God's sake. Well, like, please accept that they're hungry. Like, don't you be coming up with your own, like, well, you want to go all like,
it's the solution. You're looking for a solution to their problems, right? Because you care about them.
You care about them, but in the caring, you're trying to change them, which by definition means you're not accepting where they are right now.
Right.
And this is going to sound very dramatic. It's literally like an act of violence against someone's person. Very little, but it's an act of violence, right? Now, then once you've been able to, they hear like, oh my God, they really heard how I'm feeling, and they accept how I'm feeling. I tell someone I'm scared of spiders, and they don't go, there are no dangerous spiders in Hawaii. They actually say, oh my God, you're scared of spiders and you think there was a spider in the room right now? Yeah, no wonder you're scared. So I accept them and I validate them. And if I do that well enough, if I reflect back someone's words well enough and I accept them and I validate them, now I'll have earned the right to really explore. So what is going on with you and spiders? If I don't do those first three parts well, they're going to have to protect themselves from me, and I'll never get a chance to really understand what's going on for them.
Now, my question for you is this, because this is not normal communication from couples to couples. We have not created a world where this is how we communicate, and this will take time, and it will take energy, and it will take effort. My only fear, and sometimes, and we do this because this is what we get the opportunity to get educated on these podcasts. But when Brittany says something and I repeat what she says, it sounds like I'm repeating what she's saying, not experiencing what she's experiencing. And sometimes it comes across as, are you like belittling me? Are you trying to like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So how do you like just step into the recreation of a conversation without sounding like you're repeating the conversation?
Right. Well, so it's a really good point. That's why I kind of I prefaced earlier where, look, you got to get to that shared thing, right? Remember, the first station you have to be able to stop at is, look, we're both hurting each other. And that's the world you live in. If you try and do a one-way thing where one person, I'm just going to tell you how I'm feeling and you listen, before we're in this shared empathic experience, this shit where we're both hurting and it does make sense. We both look like we're withholding a flavor of love from the other person, right? You got to get there first. And here's the bad news. I don't know if you noticed, I said you got to get there first. That then means that to get there means we're already disconnected. The work starts after you're disconnected. Everybody wants to work, which again, it's good for me because they're going to mess it up. They're going to get in trouble and then they're going to reach out. You know, I'm going to keep getting to live in Hawaii and feed my family, right?
Of course.
Because everybody wants to get better. I want to be a better partner, right? But they're not going to succeed. Right. And in fact, the way they try and get better is going to make things worse because, you know, they think they should be better. They think their partner should be better. And they're going to end up being disappointed and they're going to hurt. They're going to get disconnected and it's going to be impossible to get out of it. So that's where the work begins. The work begins from that impossible moment to see, wait a second, look how we're both hurting. And that's what I said. It's repetition. You know, as I keep saying it, we're both hurting and we're both scary to each other right now because we both look like we're not the person that loves us and cares about us to the other person. Right? It's so scary.
It reminds me of, and Ryan said this before, and when we have arguments, and we don't fight a lot, but when we have arguments or disagreements, we have learned over practice, over time, that Ryan needs to meet me at my emotions. So he needs to like validate whatever I'm feeling, meet me there. And then, because his immediate reaction is to fix my problem. Right. And so that triggers me because I'm like, sometimes I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to like hear me. Like, these are my emotions. You don't have to come in and be like, well, do this, 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 and this. Right. And it's a lot. Totally. So you do emotionally focused therapy for couples, right? Yeah. So how does that differentiate from like regular therapy? Like what?
Well, let me just use the example you just gave, right? Okay. And of course, I'm going to make some assumptions here, but let me just, even with the example you just gave, I would get more information from you, but we'd end up at a place something similar to this, right? So here's what I'd be trying to get you. Instead of you thinking about what is it that I'm feeling, and I'm going to share what I'm feeling, and what is it that needs to happen for things to get better, and both of you having different stories about that. I will craft a story. So let me see if I get it, right? That deep down inside, you don't feel met right now. Ryan's not here for me, and it really hurts. And then I'm going to tell him, hey, like, and you know, Ryan is like, say the trigger is you said like, I'm thirsty, and he goes, do you want a sandwich?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, I just want you to hear I'm thirsty, right? You know, whatever the topic is.
The impression of me is like uncanning. It's so good.
Right.
Her so you're a little hurting. Higher.
Right. You're hurting. And Ryan then it's like, oh God, my whole job is to make sure my wife's happy. I can't tolerate her not being happy. So you know, this we probably discover. So he touches a powerless place inside. He touches a vulnerable place. Right. My job is to make sure she's happy. So he offers the sandwich. And then, of course, you don't feel met. Right. You don't feel met. Right. You're like, I said it was thirsty. He's not with me. He's not with me. And how I'm really feeling. And I'm really hurt. So then you give some advice. Hello, Ryan. Didn't we say that you wouldn't offer some solutions? Right. Which, of course, is going to make, if he was worried the first time around, she's not happy and I'm going to be bad. Now I'm extra bad.
Yeah.
So he goes, would you like sandwich and a smoothie?
Yeah.
Right? And so now you feel even more unmet and you put on your emotionally intelligent hat. Ryan, why don't I go through some of the basics with you of emotional intelligence? And you're already, even though did you criticize him explicitly? But he gets it. He's like, whoa, am I failing?
Yeah.
And the two of you are hurting and you're
Right.
both hurting each other. And look how sad it is for both of you. Look, and this is the key, right? See, could you join me, both of you? Look how sad this is for both of you right now.
Yeah.
And both of you are actually trying your best. You just want to connect with him. You just want, like, could you be with me? How I'm feeling. And Ryan, you just like, all you're trying to do is actually help her, like, not be okay, like, to be okay, because if she's not okay, you're not okay.
Yeah.
You poor devils. You love
This
each other
is-
so much.
This is legit Wednesday night.
I know
This is legit Wednesday night. Like, I just
had an
heard Wednesday night.
argument. But I
Right.
also want to say that, like, the way you explain things, I feel like you should consider, like, drawing small comics, because it's just the visuals of, like, what's happening is, like, with the sandwich and the smoothie.
Right.
It's so good. Like, it's so good
Thank
when you
you.
break it down
Yeah.
like that, because it's hard for people to look at, like, literal emotions. Like, okay, I get it. Fine. He's feeling this, and we're here and we're both empathetic. But, like, when you split it up into like hypothetical, like, smoothies, sandwiches, water, like, it makes so much sense. So much sense.
Yeah,
great.
Fig,
It's
for me, if I'm listening to what you're saying, I didn't realize when Brittany's hurting and I'm trying to fix and it's not going the way I want, I never associated it as hurting for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I never thought that I was hurting. I'm still trying to fix.
Mm-hmm.
But there is an emotional response that is occurring to me, and it's like I'm not getting it right, and I try harder and harder and harder. I can't meet her at the we're both hurting, because I didn't even realize and recognize I was hurting. I was just frustrated.
Exactly. And this is where, and look, there's assumptions that we just met, and I can see you're really open, and
But
I'm
you're
making all
accurate.
sorts. Well, good. Thank you. I'm making conjecture, which I wouldn't be this far ahead of my clients, right? Like, I wanted
Yeah.
to come from them, not me. Well, let me tell you what's happening for you. Like, which you got, I don't know, your listeners can't see me, but, like, I'm a 50-year-old
They will. We'll
white
put
guy.
this on
Oh, you were
YouTube.
like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they'll know.
I've got, can you kind of put hair, like curls?
100%.
Like some, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll ask Jake.
But,
We'll ask Jake to throw it in.
I'll edit it on.
but here's the key part, right? In all of that, I don't know if you noticed what I'm trying to accomplish. What I just did with you, I validated it makes sense both of you be hurt, and actually both of your reactions make sense. And then I combined those four things together, the way you're both hurt and you're both reacting, and I told one story about you as a couple that you both could live in together. Oh my God, when we fight about that, it's really hard for you and me. That's the key.
Right.
Everything in life gets easier if we can do that. And we got to be able to do it over and over again. And like I said, if anyone comes to see me, I'm going to win, because I won't stop. I'm like a pit bull with a locked jaw, and you'll either see it this way or we'll die trying in my office.
That's brilliant.
I like
That's
it.
brilliant, Figs. Yeah, you just hit something that I don't think I'm discovering it for the first time, and I'm actually experiencing an emotion of my previous emotions, realizing and recognizing that these are in fact emotions. I feel like, Figs, we could talk about this all day long. I really truly do, because we're getting down a rabbit hole of discovery that we've all been in these experiences before. Unfortunately, we don't have all day, and I don't know where we can stop this without going on forever. So, like,
But where can people go? Like, drop some of your socials.
Let's just say, right, just because, Ryan, you and I are now at a point where we could actually explore, which we're not going to do right now, like this part of you where, like, we're just starting to realize, God, the reason I might offer a sandwich, back to the first thing we said, right, when you tell me you're not feeling good, right, like I try and fix things, right, is like, God, if you're not okay, I'm not okay. And so then we want to mine for that. What is my vulnerability? Because now we could be two equally vulnerable people, as opposed to it's just you're the vulnerable one and I'm the fixer one. Imbalance won't work, right? So it's great. That's amazing, right? That is amazing, right? And so we want to mine for it, right? Now, in terms of, where you can find me, my website is empathy.com. And it's empathy with an I on the end, not a Y on the end. I couldn't afford empathy with a Y on the end.com. So I had to just kind of jimmy rig empathy.
I love it.
Yeah, I think you can thank Gary V for that. I think he's got empathy locked down.
You know what? No,
Oh, yeah, exactly.
you
The empathy
decided to
wines.
do empathy with an I because it's like you take the two I's and you make it a we. So that's why you did it.
When
There-
to
was
become.
That's
purposeful.
actually the real reason. I
It's-
like
it
it.
was
Thank you.
purposeful. Yes.
Thank
We'll
you.
just scratch
Exactly.
out the whole earlier. Couldn't afford the Y thing.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so empathy
Blend it
with
in.
an I on the end.com. And then just to be like, so I try and obviously couples counseling is not the most scalable business in the world, right? But so we do counseling for couples, for individuals. We have an app we built for couples that's free on the website.
Amazing.
You get all this reflected to you and personalized reports when you answer a bunch of questions, both as individuals and as a couple. My wife and I have our own podcast that we've kind of taken a little hiatus from, but it might be worth listening to.
Yeah.
It's called Come Here to Me podcast. And that's where we actually share our own couples therapy sessions. So we are the clients. And you know, to your point, like, are you a human being? We're like, there's no point in teaching this stuff. We should show them what it's like to be two vulnerable participants in a relationship. So we have this Come Here to Me podcast where we,
Brilliant.
like I said, we share really the warts and all of our relationship. And then, yeah, we have courses and all that stuff. And like I said, I think we have about 25 therapists now that we train that have to tolerate listening to me.
The
Well,
accent,
that's
and
it.
people will love this. That like, I just wish so bad that we had an accent. I just can't.
An Irishman,
We
an
don't.
Irishman
We
living
don't.
in Hawaii.
You're so
Yeah.
funny.
Living
You
the
do
dream.
have an accent.
No,
I was
we don't have a cool
I was
one.
giving little laughs with your oot and the boots. And,
See,
right?
I don't
But-
hear that at
Is
all.
it literally? Is it
Yeah.
that obvious that we're
It's
Canadian?
So weird.
Oh yeah.
Is it? I don't hear it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't. Anyway, Figs, this has been
yeah,
a
I
pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
It was
Really lovely for me, by the way. You're really, really lovely, open-hearted, kind, available podcast host. Thank you. It was really nice to sit
appreciate
with you.
that.
Thank you so
probably
much,
tell
Figs.
everyone that.
Yeah.
But it's fine. We'll take it.
Oh, I don't. I say it because let's say the last one I recorded, I did not feel like this. I wanted to go to bed for a week. I was like, the last one I did, honestly, like I really love it as a growing opportunity because I really felt like I got really,
for you.
it wasn't, I didn't feel very welcomed.
Oh,
And so I cried.
Well, you are certainly welcome
I feel
here.
held by you. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Perfect.
you're certainly welcome here, and we hope that we're welcome in Hawaii
Yeah,
when we come
we'll
knocking
be
on
there.
your door.
Hey, listen, if you come to Hawaii, let me know.
Absolutely.
Consider
Ryan
But
will.
remember, I have a 4-year-old
Here's a
boy.
sandwich. Perfect.
Oh, we weren't planning on
like
bringing
it.
the kids.
There you go. You're
this
smarter than me.
This is for us. This is
Oh,
for
that's
us.
good. Good for you.
It's good.
Figs, have yourself a
Okay.
wonderful day. Thank you again. We appreciate
Cheers.
you. Take care.
Thank you.
Cause aside from my soul,